All right.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear you. Hold on.
What about now? Do you
There we
hear
go.
us?
No, yeah,
All
no,
right.
it's my head. Oh my goodness. As soon as I said that, but whatever I was saying before, my whole computer crashed. I was like,
Okay.
holy, of course that happened like 5 minutes before the. Okay, just let me get the video up and running. We'll test it again. We still got time.
I was ready for emergency plan to play video on mine, but I wasn't sure how we set that up.
No, it's okay. We got this. We got this. Just need to get the video full screen. All right, let me share my screen again. Share.
Make sure that you include the sound.
Yeah. Just was hoping it would let me share just that window, but it's not. So I'll share the whole monitor. Okay, share.
Our crews on the site. So when you see calculated crew
Alright.
design, this is hopefully
Why is it not? Okay,
kind of
there we
the
go. Can you guys see
end
the video?
product of
Yes.
this
Now we can
effort
see
and
it.
this webinar, versus.
Let me.
All right,
Is it
folks.
playing the audio?
Good morning, good afternoon, good
I
evening
can't hear
to
it.
everyone who's joining us
I can hear
wherever.
We can hear it.
That's wild. Okay. Why can't I hear it?
Join with computer audio. I had to hit. I don't know what's on your end,
If
but do you
you
have to
guys,
hear it?
I don't have to, but I won't know when. I guess you guys can just start talking when the video's done, and then I'll
Yeah.
know it's actually done.
Okay.
But
Sure.
I can't hear it, which is so weird. Um,
We can send you an instant message too, I guess. When
hold on. I'm gonna try one more thing before I open this up for people.
yeah, you got 2 or 3
joining
minutes.
us.
There, I can hear it now. Okay, perfect. All right.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Yes, you guys go on mute. I will also mute, and then I will let people in as soon as it hits 10 o'clock. I'll open the call
Sounds
up,
good.
and then I'll wait like a minute or two, and then I'll start it. Okay.
Okay.
Ben, will you be showing that it's a video played, or how are you
No,
going
I'm
to
not
do
going to
that?
say anything. We're just going to run it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Are we going to be able to tell how many people join?
Yes, I can export a thing after. Yeah.
Would you just send us an instant message to let us know how many people are in it? That'd be interesting. Maybe 5 minutes into it. Okay, I'll see you guys in there.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our calculated crew design webinar. Just before we get started, I want to let everyone know that you can ask questions in the Q&A panel of the Zoom meeting as this presentation progresses, and at the end, we will be available to answer those questions. With that being said, we're going to start the presentation now.
All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining us, wherever from this world you're joining us. Welcome to the Trillium Advisor Group webinar. Today, we are going to talk to you about calculated crew design. In this webinar, we're going to basically walk you through our research and development effort to take a closer look at a subject that has not received sufficient attention in the construction industry, which is the way we assign our crews on the site. So when you see calculated crew design, this is hopefully kind of the end product of this effort and this webinar, versus the random crew assignment that is happening in the construction industry right now. To give you an idea about who is talking to you, my name is Zaman Al-Shabani. I'm an industry advisor in Trillium Advisor Group. I have more than 10 years of experience from the construction industry, assuming this different roles ranging from basically a construction workers to a supervisor to a field engineer to a project manager. I also spend enough time working in project controls, that's including, project scheduling, project estimating, and even in bidding. I also have some research effort that has been going since, I would say, 2015. And recently, I am more focused in my research effort on the application of technology in the construction industry, and what you will see today is part of this research effort. Leading this with me is my co-worker and my friend Gary. Gary, I will hand it to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Zaman. Yeah, my name is Gary Orton. I'm a research fellow for the Trillium Advisor Group. I've been involved in heavy industrial construction for several years now. I started out as actually as a worker on the tools. I worked my way up, and I ended up being a research fellow for Trillium. I've been part of many different organizations as far as research teams and think tanks, and excited to be here. Yeah, welcome.
Awesome. Gary, I would let you start with introducing people to basically the point of this webinar, introducing them and talking to them about what has been going in the industry, something about, work productivity, and then we're going to dive more into details later in the results of our research.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Zaman. So the point of the presentation is to provide everybody with a unique perspective on industrial construction productivity from a view that's not been seen before, researched, in our opinion, sufficiently. But before we do, we'd like to take a look at a little bit of history here and what's gone on before us, and one of the reasons that we started doing what we're doing. So when it comes to productivity, most of us have seen the pie charts that were done by COA several years ago. These came out just about 10 years ago. I was part of these studies, and these studies showed a very low rate of time on tools. Similar studies were also done by CII, and they showed similar results, which were consistently poor. They were also very subjective for several factors. Some of the crews surveyed were surveyed during early works in low congestion areas. At ground level, they had plenty of material availability, and they had lots of equipment. So they scored quite high. Conversely, other crews that were surveyed during bulk construction or later phases of the project, and they scored much lower for obvious reasons. The reports were skewed for any individual project rather, which meant that providing analytics to the health on that project was very difficult. And so we're applying corrective measurements for the project. Because of this, there was no sliding scale that was developed to indicate where a project should be at any particular time or during any particular phase. Next slide. At the same time the studies were done at a crew level, we also analyzed the crew supervision. So, surveys on the supervision were also low scoring, but they were less subjective because we're looking at individuals in this case, rather than the entire group. Some concerns with the early data collection methods kind of skewed these results as well, because of the metrics that were used, the times that they were used, and who was conducting the observations and who was doing the analytics. But regardless of the problems with the data collection methods or the analytics that were used, we were forced to draw certain conclusions. Number one, that our engineering, procurement, construction was lacking in performance overall. Number two, all indications showed a gradual decline in performance over time. So this is over the time periods that these studies were being done. And number three, it was the foreman that needed help and attention. So we needed to reach out to this person, the supervisor, and on the front line or the foreman. So the solution, concentrate efforts for the foreman. Next slide. So during the past 2 decades, we've identified the concern of poor productivity. We've studied the projects, we surveyed the construction crews, and we've analyzed and we reported on all these findings to the industry. We then enlisted an army of subject matter experts. We dedicated countless of hours. We went to several organizations to bring every available resource to bear to help these foremen out. Yet despite all the efforts that we expended, we continue to see a decline in productivity over the last 20 years. But before I go any further, I was part of these efforts, and I still am. That was then. So a few years ago, a small group of us decided to look at the problem at the ground level, rather than the 5-mile-high view. What we decided to do was drill down deeper and look beyond the crew level to the individuals that make up the crews. We stopped looking at the crews and we started to talk to the individuals that were on the crews. And what we found was nothing short of alarming. What we're presenting today is a portion of our studies from the research that was done and the interviews that were done on those individuals that make up those crews. We talked to them and see what they thought. Okay, over to you, man.
All right, thank you, Gary. So as you guys saw that, I want to start where at this slide actually, where Gary have showed a couple of efforts that have been done when it comes to planning the work, and one of them is, if you look at here, one of them is agile, one of them is advanced work packaging, and most of these efforts were dedicated toward the planning. And if you look at what we have been planning, the industry has been planning pretty much everything, including material delivery and storage, equipment movement, site planning, safety, construction, the delivery, commissioning, even the closeout activity got planned. But our most valuable resources, which are basically, those are the people that do the actual work, physically do the work on site, receive minimal to no attention when it comes to how we assign them, how we plan that assignment. The common question has been basically in the construction industry, especially in the recent years, is how technology, or how this new technology or AI or new algorithm or tools will help me to improve performance. And if you think about what the industry is suffering from, given that it suffers from the shortage of manpower, the question should be, how do I effectively utilize my people to improve performance? That question has not received sufficient attention especially when it comes to the crews on the site. Now, there is this is one side of it. We become over-reliant on technology, even when it comes to communication. I want to take you back a few years. Like when the pandemic hits, everything pretty much changed to digital communication. And we become more reliant on technology, even when it comes to communicating with people. And one of the words that you saw in Gary's last slide was agile. If you are familiar with agile, you know that agile relies on basically 4 values and 12 principles. And if you read these principles before, the last one of them says the most effective way to convey an information to a team of people and communicate with them is a face-to-face conversation. Now, when it comes to the crews, we already, even before the pandemic, we were not taking enough time to talk to them. We're not basically giving them that much voice. And after the pandemic, that basically same trend increase. And we rely right now more on technology than before. No, don't get me wrong. Trillium Advisor Group is a company that we are trying to be in the frontiers when it comes to implementing a new technology to effectively actually improve our performance. But also at the same time, we take a step back and look at the big picture and see where are the areas of improvement. And given that we dedicated so much planning effort to equipment and material delivery, to how we do the work, and we came up with all of these approaches to implement the work, we noticed that there is a gap, actually. There is a missing component. We have not dedicated enough effort to crew assignment. The current crew assignment in the construction industry is, it's fair to say it's kind of random. Like there is not really much effort that goes into this and to consider what are people's strengths and weaknesses and preferences and all of that. So we spotted that gap and we decided to actually start a research study. And this research study dates back to 2015. The first round of it. And instead of asking people in the office, we went right to the site and asked workers about their perspective about crew assignment. And our goal, we have 3 objectives basically when we started this effort. The first one was to understand the crew's perspective on current work assignment. And then identify the opportunities for improvement based on workers' perspective, not just based on our perspective. And then hopefully, eventually developing a solution that help to reduce or minimize this gap and help workers to get a better crew assignment and enjoy their work and not get a random assignment that actually declines the productivity in an industry that is already characterized by a poor productivity. So we started our research effort with a survey that was dedicated to people that can be considered as crews on construction site, whether in a supervisory or non-supervisory roles. Our target audience was basically listening to people who do the physical job on the site. And we went to different construction sites in both Canada and the US and deploy a survey that contains about 20 questions. Most of the questions are close-ended questions, basically yes and no. And then we gave workers the opportunity to basically comment and give us their feedback in more details. And then after that, these 2 layers of basically receiving information, we conducted and we get more in-depth insight about workers' perspective about this whole topic. So just to give you an idea, and at the end of this webinar, we are going to post the link for both of the surveys, and you will see the details of the question. But to give you an idea about what type of questions we ask and why did we ask these questions and what people actually, how people responded to those. The first question in our survey was, and even in our interviews was, we asked workers whether they were interviewed or questioned for the purpose of placing them in a crew. And you can see that's the majority of them says actually no. 60% says like no verbal or written questionnaire or interview was given to me. We were just basically assigned assigned to work. Here's the work and go ahead and do it. 30% of people says, well, there was just a verbal interview, a supervisor interviewing you, say, hey, like we have this work, would you like to, do this task or that task? And then only 3% has a formal receive a formal written questionnaire when it comes to their assignment to work task. If you think about it, 90% of people did not really have a formal or even a written documented informal interview or questions with them. That gives you an idea about what's going on right now with the crew assignment in the construction industry. And it tells you there is definitely an opportunity to improve here. So that was our first question, just to open the conversation with people. And then we went ahead and asked another question. We says, have you left a construction job in the last 5 years due to lack of enjoyment in the task that you are assigned to? And you can also see that the majority of workers says yes. 57% says yes. And it should be easy to imagine the cost actually and the impact on your schedule when people actually just leave the work. I'm pretty sure most of our audience is familiar with what impact could that have, especially if people leave halfway when the work is not done in an industry that is suffering from manpower shortage. And it's very difficult right now to hire skilled people. Now, these workers are not leaving because they don't like the project or the company or the owner or someone else on the site. They left because they do not like the task they were assigned to. The crew assignment was just random. Nobody asked them. And we went ahead and also asked a question, in the last 5 years, have you ever purposely been unproductive due to lack of enjoyment in the task that you were assigned? And before really talking about the result, think about the wording of this question. It takes guts to say I have been purposely unproductive because I don't like the work I assigned to. And yet, given that fact in the question, the majority of people, 51%, says yes. And these workers said that they will kick back. They would rather to kick back and relax rather than to put out because they did not like the crew or the task they were on. We also asked them, in the last 5 years, have you left a construction job because you were assigned to tasks that you did not have adequate training or to complete? And here the majority, about 90% of people, says no. So now, in contrasting to the previous slides, you can see that workers are not uncomfortable with what they are doing. They are leaving because they don't enjoy what they were doing. It was not lack of competence or training. It was just lack of enjoyment in the task. We also asked them within the last 5 years, have you ever been unproductive due to lack of training in the task that you were assigned to? And the majority says no. And you can see that our workers being unproductive because of their being put in position where they are uncomfortable. Also, given that fact, there is a 33% of them that says yes, and which tells you there is also opportunity to see to ask them, to reach out to them and see what kind of training do you need actually to do the task. And so I can keep you. You don't have to leave. Then we kind of change the questions a little bit, and we ask them about overall, given the current status of crew assignment or the current way of crew assignment in the construction industry, do you feel that the way people are assigned to the crews can be improved in the construction industry today? And the significant majority says yes. The vast majority believe that we as management can do a better job when it comes to crew assignment. We also ask them, would you prefer to be asked if you were interested in learning new skills in your craft, if a crew placement would present that opportunity? And the majority of people are open to this. They are not against learning a new skill. They actually would prefer to do that if this was considered in the crew placement. We tweak the question a bit and says, would you mentor personnel? And this is important because I'm going to explain something later, actually, that people mention in their comment, and I will show you one of their comments. Would you mentor personnel who request crew placement that would allow them to learn a new skill on the job? And more than 95% of people says, yes, I would do that. They are open to mentor other people. Now, later on, you will see that some of them mention in their comment, there is lack of mentorship. The issue here could be because given this question, the vast majority of them says yes. The issue could be no one has asked them before. No one says like, would you actually be able to mentor, or would you be open to mentor someone else who is new to the job, who want to learn a new skill? And you can see people are pretty open to this. And this is an anonymous survey. We did not collect any identification information that could introduce any bias here. People know exactly from the beginning of going through the survey that there's no identification. So they pretty much felt open to answer these questions. Then we ask open-ended question. We said, what are the greatest challenges from worker's perspective that you have experienced with the crew personnel assignment on construction projects? And couple of things actually came up. The obvious one that you can see, the biggest word here, is the shortage of manpower. This is something everyone knows in the construction industry. But there were also other stuff that were interesting that we got, our other responses. Skill and training mismatch. There is a difficulty in matching workers' skill set with job requirements, and in finding individuals who are willing to mentor others to expand their skill set. Although most of workers previously says, yes, we are open, we saw some of the comments, mention that there is a difficulty in finding mentors. And that could tell you, like, probably no one has asked those who are open to go ahead and, start mentoring other people, especially when it comes to the craft work. And then other issues we saw here, like, pairing workers was an issue that came up a lot in the comments. Management and communication issue. Having an open channel, like you would call, I don't know if you would call it an open door policy, where a worker do not hesitate to have their voice raised or reached to the management or to leadership. Not having enough time in pre-planning. Basically, there is a challenge with having enough time to prepare, set the tools, equipment, material, and so on and so forth. Lack of initiative, workers being unwilling to act without explicit instruction. And that's kind of also lack of motivation. This tells you a little bit about the climate, the policies, the procedures, the practices on the construction site, and what the management, whether that's the upper management and the middle management or the immediate management on the site, can do actually to improve and change that climate. Most of the comments actually were interesting, and they shed the light on areas we're not aware of. They were not like, we reviewed the literature, we done enough job to review the available literature on this, and there is really not much work that has been done on this. There is a lot of work done on productivity, but not much on crew assignment and how actually it affects productivity. One of the significant comment we got was about random crew assignment, which is basically the topic of this webinar. We also ask people, what do you feel can be done to improve crew assignment on construction projects? And I selected a couple of interesting comments actually that you see here on the slide. Assigning workers to tasks they are both interested in and qualified for can significantly enhance motivation and job performance. Flexibility in the nature of work and feedback from the crews on site and leadership. Training was also an issue for people. Supervisors should have a Q&A checklist. People are asking literally for a documented way in the hiring process. This is what we're going to propose later today and we've been talking about. Even like when we ask the first question, like whether you were interviewed, people kind of are on the same page, crews are on the same page with us when it comes to having a formal documented way to collect their feedback, to hear them. And the most interesting actually comment that I saw was anything at this point would help. And that tells you that people on the site know that the current crew assignments is actually not the ideal way. And there's definitely other questions we ask, but these are sample of the questions we ask people. And in the interviews, we went in depth with them, and we're still conducting interviews with workers and crews from the site, and trying to understand what is it that what area that we have not addressed yet. I'm not going to present more result of the survey. We're going to probably present the result when we publish our paper that is in the submission process right now. But I will pass it to my coworker, Gary, to talk about the players in the industry. Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Zaman. So we'd like to talk a little bit about what we call the players on a construction project. And this is what we see as a difference between supervision and management and the actual people at the floor level. It seems that since the beginning of time, we've treated our staff personnel as our brain trust. Those are the ones who get things done. We count on them to kick the project off in the beginning, we count on them to make progress, and we count on them to close it out. And generally in the industry, we exert every effort to ensure that our staff personnel are carefully vetted. We use multiple interviews and references. We use every check and balance available to us because we need them to perform important functions that are critical to our firm's success. We nurture this group with constant monitoring by providing every resource available to them to make sure that they can succeed. And when they leave us, we conduct exit interviews to figure out how we did and how we might improve our processes. We communicate with this group from the beginning, prior to their employment. We talk to them throughout their employment. We even talk to them after they're done with us. We treat our staff personnel as special because they are special. And if you ask most of them how they feel, they'll likely reply that they're treated very well and they feel special. Then we have the workers. And this is from the workers that we surveyed. And like Zaman said, some of these were very long person-to-person, face-to-face interviews where we sat down and we talked to them in earnest to find out what they felt. According to most surveys that we conducted with the workers, there was little to no interest shown in their needs or wants or the specific preferences for them for the work conditions. Not for the willingness to learn new trade or professional skills, or for them to have the ability to pass their knowledge on to their co-workers. Even their fears or dislikes of certain tasks that they might run into. The contrast of scientific placement consideration for the staff to the random or haphazard placement that we found on most work sites, considering the individual worker, is not without consequence. The main takeaway for most of the workers surveyed was they think that we could do a better job in managing them and how we receive them on projects and how we place them on work crews and assigning the tasks that they do. Or quite frankly, just speaking to them to find out what would make their experience working with our companies more enjoyable. The main takeaway is that when we fail to communicate with those workers, the negative impact affects both the workers and the projects. For many organizations that employ teams of people, they analyze the effect or impact of the individual value and performance as it affects the entire group. And we see this as most prevalent in high-performing professional organizations. You see that in sports or in some management firms. Sports teams will even scout and recruit individuals that they need to fill a void within their specific teams. And they look for size, speed, character, and so on. Well-managed companies will often mix and match their employees on certain teams according to the needs of the team. It's only after consideration is given to the wants of these individuals and how they feel that they're being interacted with, that maximum efficiency can be calculated, analyzed, and planned. It's not our recommendation to suggest that workers dictate the tasks that they perform when they come to work with us, or even who they get to work with, but rather that we communicate with them. That's when we might determine what's going to keep them on our projects longer, make them happier, and maybe even leave our projects with more knowledge than they came to our projects with to begin with. It's going to allow them to learn and teach new skills, feel more like team members, and perhaps even be more willing to communicate back with us. Over to you, man.
Thank you, Gary. So from the idea of calculated crew design, this is not like, when the name, we're not following a specific algorithm to the calculation. And as Gary said, we are not leaving it up to the workers on how the work is done. This is more of a, like, giving them a voice and listening to them and considering their perspective in the way that they are assigned, so they can stick with us, they can learn new skills, they can do their job safely with high performance and high productivity. And to be able to do that, other than just being random about crew assignment, to do like a calculated or systematic crew assignment, we need to collect some data, and some of the data that you might consider when it comes to crew assignment: the experiences, the fears and limitations, the weaknesses, the strength, the skills of people, the preferences. These include, like, could include geographical preferences. Some people want to work in a specific state or specific areas. Also, some other psychographics factors that could affect, and you collect all of this data and have it into consideration, and then you analyze the data. Once you have gathered that data, you have to analyze it. You have to be able to make sense out of it. And here we're looking at, like, there are two ways of analysis. You could have the data in tables and all these descriptive statistics, and then you can make decision about it. And as a human, we really don't do a good job when it comes to that. Imagine having data for like hundreds of workers and trying to make the ideal assignment out of that. It's kind of like beyond an individual capability, actually, to make good decisions when it comes to this big data. And even with the small data, like, we don't tend to make the perfect decisions. But that does not suggest we remove the human factor or our eyes from this. There is another way, a systematic way, actually, to analyze the data and to make sense out of it. And this is where our solution come into place. The AI creations. Our final step is to assign people to crews, to design our creations, if you will. And here is where the effort in our data analysis pays off. There are a number of considerations when it comes to this AI tool. It considers who will work well together, what skill set tied to which work plans, how do strength, weaknesses, fears, and skill match with work tasks in the plans. Are our crews good mix of experience to achieve the mentorship that we talked about previously? And after and not just totally leaving it to AI, but at least the first round of analysis, after some critical thinking, we can put people together under each supervisor or foreman. And here you will be, basically, the management will be the second eye to take a look at how this AI creation tool came up with these assignments and what type of factors were considered into this. This tool is still in development. You will see it in the future, and hopefully you would be able to use it. But this tool follows a specific algorithm and consider all of these factors and give you the first round of data analysis, and it will basically yield some results when it comes to crew assignment based on all of the factors that you collected in our data. With that being said, I will turn it back to Gary to talk about the point of this study and this research effort and wrap this webinar up. Gary.
Great, thanks, Zaman. So, like Zaman said, if you have, we think that you would need an algorithm or AI in order to determine the best placement for a group of new hires to go out into the field and join crews. To do it manually would be like trying to play 10 chess games all at once and trying to figure out all the moves and the best thing to do on a site. It would be nearly impossible. For AI, I'm sure that would be a lot easier, and that's what we're working toward. I'd like to tell a little bit of a story here. During our interviews that we had with one-on-one, there was a couple of people that we talked to who were quite frustrated, and they were in the later stages of their career, like in their 50s. And they expressed frustration that throughout their career, there's a lot of things that they would have wanted to learn or do, or perhaps even change their profession, leave the tools and go into safety or quality control or project control. There's so many different opportunities out there, but they were never offered that opportunity. And another interesting point that I learned by doing this experiment that Zaman and I did was one of the workers, actually more than one of the workers, expressed the concern that not only does management not talk to the workers, he said, it appears that the workers aren't talking to the workers either. And I said, I said, can you give me an example? I don't understand. And the example that they used was that earlier on in that particular person or these people's careers, when they would go to the lunchroom, they would talk to each other. The workers would get together and they'd talk about whatever sports or the weekend or their families or whatever. They'd have a conversation. But he said now, when you go to the lunchroom, it appears that people are staring at their cell phones and they're watching videos. And while those videos may be more interesting to watch than to talk to coworkers, for lack of any other conversation, it may even be more entertaining, and I'm sure a lot of them are entertaining. They shouldn't be more important. I think we need to put the importance back on communicating and talking to people and treating people like people. I think that one of the reasons that we've lost our productivity or that's in decline is because we've lost the ability to communicate and to actually work with with individuals. And that's what the purpose of this study is. Back to you, man.
All right, thank you, Gary. With that being said, we would like to thank you again for joining us, and we would take a few minutes to answer any questions you have. And of course, we welcome the conversation for later on if you want to connect with us, and we would definitely appreciate any feedback and opinion. We will also paste the link to the survey, and we would appreciate it if you can actually pass these link and the survey to your workers and let them participate. And this is totally anonymous, and this is for the purpose of improving crew assignment in the construction industry. And now I will go ahead and open it to questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Do you guys have, Ben, do we have any questions? I see 2 questions here on my end. Would you like me to go ahead and answer them?
Yes, yes, sir. Go ahead and answer those ones.
All right, so first question I have is, when is the ideal time to use the app, the AI Croatian app? Well, it's honestly, if you think about the app, there is the input stage of it, and there's the analysis, and then there's the output. The input, you can use it, you can collect input at the beginning of the hiring process. When you hire people, you can ask them to fill out the interface basically of the app and collect the data about their skills, their areas of improvement, their strength, their geographical preferences, other factors you want to collect, and what are the tasks that they want to do, and what they prefer not to do. Even when it comes to phobia, like if you want to ask some people, hey, would you like to work do you have any phobia? Maybe some people are like, may not like to work in high areas, or like, So assigning them in a work that, involved a lot of scaffolding and a lot of protection with height may introduce another type of factors that could lower their productivity. So at the beginning of the hiring process or at the beginning of the project, both of these times you can collect data from people. When it comes to the analysis, I would say the beginning of the project is the ideal time is to collect this, is to analyze the data and see what the app is going to suggest, what type of crew assignment. And this app is not just going to take these factor of preferences, but also think about in the construction industry, there is like half of the, at least in the US, a big portion of the construction workforce is from Hispanic background. Think about safety manuals and understanding English, and literacy issues. So, having a combination of like basically people who understand the Spanish language, for example, to explain any ambiguities in safety manuals or instructions. So the app also can consider this, but the beginning of the project would be ideal to basically run that analysis and see what kind of crew assignment you would have out of that. A second question I have, Gary, you probably would be best to answer this question. The question says, how can we better utilize the diverse background and experiences of individual workers to enhance the overall success of a construction project?
Okay, yeah, actually, that's a good question. I think just beginning at the beginning, if I was a construction worker and I had my choice of projects to go to, and because there's a shortage, I likely would have my choice. I think I'd like to go to a project where if there was 30 or 40 or 50 work crews out there, I'd like to think that somebody would put me on one particular crew where I was best suited to go, whether I wanted to learn something or I was willing to teach something, or where I'd be happy to be there and stay there. The overall success of projects is going to be determined by if the people are content with where they are, and if they think that they're treated like they're important. I think in order to do that, you've got to talk to them. So that's how you're going to get safer projects and workers who are going to stay and keep working with you. You'd have that reputation that project was using a tool that you were going to be considered and talked to. I think that's something that we've lost, and it's something we got to get back with. And I don't think that individuals are going to do that out in the field. I think that AI creations can determine that to place people.
I agree. This is something actually you have to motivate people to have this. I would call it citizenship behavior, which is basically when no instruction need to be given on how to do the job or what is right from wrong on the site, and giving them that opportunity to raise their voice and communicate that voice to leadership, and that effect actually their crew assignment is going to motivate them because it communicates a sense of achievement to them because they know they are involved in the process of how they were assigned to work. So that might actually increase their motivation and willingness to participate and to utilize that diverse experience. Ben, I have those two questions here on my end. If you folks have any more questions, feel free to communicate with us, on LinkedIn or directly on the email or the Trillium group, however you want to communicate. Ben, if you can pass the survey links in the chat, that would be great. Beyond that, that's pretty much everything we have for today. Thank you very much again for joining us, and we appreciate it, and you guys have a great day.
Yep, thanks, everyone.